Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Phenomena Séance. Yay! The monthly interview show in which I, your host, Mimi Dibbs, interview another like-minded creative. I have a lot of friends that are creatives and creatively minded, and I love interviewing them because it's a lot of fun. And you know what? If nothing else, it's more for me than it is for you anyway, because it's my show. Anyway, today we are joined by the absolutely lovely friend of the pod, Aarti. Help me in summoning Aarti. Yes, Aarti. Aarti, how did it feel to just be summoned out of the astral world?
Hi. I was sitting on my bed and now I'm here. Hi.
Yeah. It tends to have kind of a disassociating effect. You'll get used to it, I think.
I feel a bit dizzy, but it's fun. It's fun. Hi. Oh my God.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. I'm so happy that you could join me. I was we took a little bit of a break for November and December, and then we came back in January and February, and since then I feel like I've just been getting back into the groove of things in terms of Phenomena Séance. So yeah, every time is like a learning curve where I'm like, is this right? Am I doing it right? Who knows, honestly. As long as we make a change toward the better, that's all that matters.
Truly, what is right? What is right and wrong?
Oh my God, we were just talking about this before the podcast.
We literally were just talking about it.
Yes. Wait, also, hold on. Whatever you just said, I couldn't hear a word of, by the way. But I don't know if your mic picked it up. Okay, say it one more time.
I said, yes, we were literally just talking about this.
Yes.
That was, yeah.
You're just already such a good podcast like guest, because every time we talk, we're like, you know what? Deep. #deep. But also, I wanted to, obviously, as many other people who have listened to any of the other Phenomena Séance episodes know, that the two main questions we seek to answer by the end of the episode is, what is your favorite phenomena or cryptid, if you have a favorite cryptid? And then, do you have any personal phenomena experiences? So
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I was thinking a lot about this the past couple of days. But then right before this episode, right before I got on with you,
Yes,
I found out about this thing. This is my new obsession.
amazing.
There's a creature that exists on our planet Earth called volcano snails. Now, here's the thing you need to understand about volcano snails. They are
Already
basically
obsessed.
Yes, they are basically, oh my God, I'm sorry. I have to pull this up. Give me 1 second.
Yes, please.
But they are surrounded by, like, their skin has, oh, sorry. I scratched the mic.
Is
Okay.
volcanoes.
Okay,
No, is lava. What is their skin?
Huh?
Their skin is
Their
lava.
skin
That's
is like
my final
iron.
answer.
Their skin is iron. And
That's
they're like, it's like, yes.
Wait, is that a
okay, these are,
That's crazy.
they are, okay. Their shells are made of iron and they live around hydrothermal vents and can reach up to 750 degrees Fahrenheit. They basically have scales, live around extreme heat, are protected by iron. They are dragons. These are they are literal and the fact that they're not called dragon snails. They're literal. I'm calling them snail dragons from now on, or dragon snails, whatever 100%. We prefer.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only name I will accept them to go by.
Yes.
I need the scientific community to get on board. I need to rename them. They are dragon snails. They are incredible.
Dragon snails. Come on down to dragon snails. Dude, remember Dragon Tales on PBS? Anyway.
Oh, do I remember Dragon Tales? Dragons are literally one of my favorite creatures.
Yes. Me too.
They are, I live in a world where dragons are real. I need you to understand that.
True.
Because
I guess that's a good point. Dragons are a phenomena in a way.
They are. They've come across They're my favorite phenomena.
That is such a good answer. They are across so many different lores from everywhere around the world.
Okay. Do you want to know my theory? Here's my theory.
I need to know your theory.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going to go very deep into this. So please
Let's go. I got my snorkel gear on. No, wait. My scuba gear.
Your scuba gear. My theory on humanity is that, here's the thing. I think one of my many theories is that this is not the first time we've done this to a planet. I think our history as humanity is that we continually destroy a planet, rob it of its resources, and then the richest and worst among us get on a ship and find another planet that we can live on. And I think when we go to that new planet, because look, here's the thing, look at all these ancient cultures. What do they preach? Like they show up, and a lot of them, there's a lot of like stories of like beings flying down from the heavens, right? Like this idea of like spaceships, essentially, right? I'm getting a little ancient aliens here, but bear with me, okay?
Fair.
Go on this journey with me.
Yes.
They talk about these beings coming down from like the heavens or what have you. Mm-hmm. And again, this is our understanding of a game of telephone that we have been playing thousands of years of telephone with these ancient cultures, right? So there's a lot of ways to interpret those messages, right? These beings came down from above, and then also all these ancient cultures constantly talk about this idea that humans need to respect Mother Earth. We need to fucking take care of her. She is literally our mother. This is our home. We need to fucking respect the shit out of her. We don't need to fuck this up. Like, this is our planet. We live it. We need to live with nature. And so we do that. We do that for a bit, but because we are like descendants from the worst and richest of us among us, we just keep repeating this like cycle of greed and horror and destroying a planet and then going to another planet. I'm coming back to dragons, don't worry. I have not forgotten that.
That's fair. Okay, cool.
I've not forgotten.
But also I feel like that's aliens, in my opinion. I understand the cyclical nature at which you're getting, but I feel like that's just other life forms that aren't humans, in my opinion. In your world, obviously it's humans, right?
Like, yeah, we're humans. We're humans. Because here's the thing. So basically, I think the reason, because I think there's a lot of audacity in the people who say that aliens don't exist. I think aliens do exist. Obviously. I think, but how much contact we've had with them? Sure, I will have that conversation with you. I think humans are very stupid, obviously. And that's why I feel like the aliens I'm sure aliens have seen what's going on, but they see the human race and they go, look at these fucking ass monkeys that can't even fix their own wars. They're bombing each other, oddly enough. Like, they can't even come to a consensus. Why the fuck would we get involved with that? I wouldn't get involved with that. Mimi, you are picking up exactly what I'm putting down, because here's the thing. In this like theory I have, we are essentially the Floridians of the universe. And every alien planet that flies over, they're like, oh, that's a human planet. We avoid the shit out of that. Because all the human planets are like destroyed and trash. And like, because like that's what humans do. They just do dumb shit and fuck up their planets. 100%. And so I'm coming back to dragons now. Yes, because another thing that a lot of ancient cultures all have is different takes or different ideas, but they all talk about things like dragons and unicorns and Pegasuses and like all like these. And so therefore
mermaids.
I'm like, okay, so mermaids, right? So I'm like, okay, so is it not possible that we came from a planet where these things were real, and then we like came to planet Earth, and like now we have all these stories of these these like creatures and stuff that existed on other planets, but then we come here and they're gone, but we still are carrying on the stories of the past.
That's the same thing as different dimensions, though, in my opinion. I think what you're saying is applying time to dimensions, like by saying it's in the past or the present. I think there are infinite like possibilities of dimensions and timelines and blah, blah, blah. And I think time is a flat circle, right? Time like doesn't exist. We just like perceive time in a certain way. So it's just like, I think all those things are real and not real. And that's why the world of phenomena is so fascinating to me, because I'm like, some things maybe just don't even need an answer, but I think they warrant a discussion. And I think that's where people get slippery. That's where the slippery slope is, in my opinion, between phenomena and conspiracy theories, right? I recently figured out a way to like really solidify it. And that is that phenomena doesn't seek to answer the question. Like, it's we're doing phenomena in the most scientific method way possible, which is, let's observe this, let's come up with the theories, let's pause it over this, and that's it. There's no answer, because it's unknowable, and that's fine. Like, I don't believe in God,
Yeah.
but I think there's probably like, you know, a thread connecting us all in some capacity, but I don't posit to know the answers, and I'm okay with it, actually. But I feel like that's why phenomena is cool. Great. Whereas conspiracy theories, I've noticed, it's people that have a conclusion and then look for things to validate that conclusion, which a lot of the times is the conspiracy theory, right? A lot of the times it's like a end game, and then they come up with ways to make the world fit that end game. But regardless, I feel like it's, sorry, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I really love that, because I think that also speaks to this idea of like, the way you're describing phenomena. I think it's really interesting, because I was having a conversation with someone earlier today about this, where I was like, the difference between like Eastern belief systems and indigenous like belief systems and ways of thinking versus like, you know, you look at the way that Western Europe sort of mentality that then spread through colonization and imperialization and white supremacy and stuff, because like it's this idea that like I think in a lot of Eastern and indigenous belief systems there is a comfort with the unknown, and we don't seek to answer the questions of the world. We just seek to ask those questions and to sit around just the way we are right now and wonder, because like, and that's why I say it's like, yeah, I have many theories of how, and like that's the thing, is we don't know the answer, and we never will, and that's kind of the fun of it all, and that's kind of the experience of it all. Is the experience is truly the journey of questioning. And I think what's really, you know, like the way that you're talking about conspiracy, like I feel like that's a very like, yeah, it's very much in that more Western mindset of we must have an answer and we must have
the black
like
and white of it
proof
all
to support all of these. And it's a very like, it's like thinking in those binaries of this is what is true and what must be true because I have decided it's true, rather than this is what I think might be true, but we don't know. And these are the things that support it. These are the things that don't support it. So I guess like, let's just sit here and wander some more and ask questions and have conversations with others and sort of figure it out, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I was literally telling my mom, actually, we were talking about like when she came to California to visit, we went to dinner and me, John, and her, and she was talking about how like, she was like, I just don't love that you always shit on Christianity, basically. She was like, whatever, let people do whatever they want. I don't give a shit if you're an atheist, but I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. And I was like, sure, I get where you're coming from, and I respect the fact that you want everyone to think the way that whatever, but at the end of the day, for me, my gripe, I think my biggest problem with Christianity is that they're also new age creationists. There's a word for it in which they think the world is only 6,000 years old because that's when the Bible places Adam and Eve to have happened. So that's going against science in my.
Here's the thing, though.
There's a very slippery slope between that and like flat Earth. You know what I mean? Like it's just like, let's just deny science all of a sudden and pretend like fossils aren't real and like let's pretend like archaeology isn't a fucking profession. Like, what are you talking about? I can't. I don't understand how we can live in the like make-believe land of denying science.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. I do. And I'm not supporting flat earthers. I'm not supporting it. But I agree with here's the thing that's funny about what your mom is saying. Right. I think the real root of what a lot of people have a problem with religious people, and I like religion as a whole, and actually not even religion, I want to say ideology as a whole, because it's not just religious people, it's also people who are atheists and agnostic who I've come into this conversation with.
Right, our left. Yeah, far right, far left.
Yeah, like far right, far left. Like it's like it's this ideological thinking where my view must be the correct view and the only view. And I think that is where I take issue, because
that's a great point.
Here's the thing, because it's like I hear what you're saying where you're like, oh, well, this is what I'm not disagreeing that science says that Earth is far older than 6,000. Of course, it's older than 6,000
That's
years.
what I'm saying.
However, there's also so much we don't know, and there's also like it's. If you want to believe, here's what I mean. If you want to believe the Earth is flat, as long as your story is not, as long as you're not trying to convince anyone else that the Earth is flat, and you're like, I just need to believe the Earth is flat. I don't give a fuck if you think the Earth is flat. You know, if that's what you need to believe to get through the day,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fucking argue with you, as long as you're not trying to like convince me of that. You
Totally,
know,
totally. I think my biggest issue, yeah, definitely, is for me, the biggest issue is when
I'm not gonna hang out with you.
No, for sure, exactly. Like we all obviously need to
but
ideologically
if you need to live in your
align.
little weird bubble of I need the world to be flat. I don't know. I'm too tired to fight with you anymore.
No, that's fair. I think the biggest problem I have with it is when you bring kids into it, because people then will say, like, the flat Earth community has led to some children, not everywhere. This is a very small, subset of people and a very small focus group. I'll give you that. But in terms of like, literally these parents that are hardcore flat earthers will be like, you need to tell your science teacher they're wrong. And the children will stand up. No, I'm literally, now I sound like a freaking conspiracy theorist, but I swear to God, these kids will be like, teacher, my mom and dad said that the earth is flat, so whatever you're teaching us about the globe is wrong. And then the science teacher's like, bitch, sit down. I'm the one teaching you. And then they pull them out of school and would rather homeschool them because they think education is evil. I think if anyone thinks education is evil, there's a problem. No, I know. And that's like
I think that was the wrong one for me to jump on, because I didn't think that far into it. I'm
just saying people are crazy.
Flat earthers would
They'll
even
take their
be
kids
able
out
to
of school,
find anyone to procreate with, to be honest.
I know. That's a shock in and of itself.
I'm so
it's true.
sorry.
You're totally right.
I honestly did not think that far in advance. And you know what? I stand corrected, because I think, because it's like, I think even with religious like thinking, like, if you want to believe, a certain way, I do think it is very harmful the way that people then raise their kids to believe those things as well. But also at the end of the day, I think, I don't know. I think it's just so complicated, because I think okay, here's the thing, but I think it still hits the same heart of it. I think it's that, I think what I'm trying to say, I want to correct my statement. I want to amend my statement if I can.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the problem is that binary thinking. I'm going back to it.
It's
the fact that you believe that you're right in any capacity, in any form. And I think that's really I think that's more of what I meant by that, is like, as long as you understand that the thing that you believe is not 100% true, I think that's where the danger comes in. Because like, whether it's religion, whether it's flat earthers, whatever it is, I think the danger is always the people who live in those, like, I am 100% correct and have it all figured out. And I think that is truly where the danger of humanity is. And I've always said, I think the thing, oh, sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No, go ahead. No. I was about to cut you off.
Because I always say, I think for me, when I talk about I feel like I'm someone who spends a lot of time thinking about, I don't know, just the state of humanity and the state of the world. And I've kind of always been sort of that existential thinker. And I think something that often gets asked at the end of every conversation that you have, whether it's like geopolitics, whether it's, societal issues, whether it's, I don't know, like whatever it is, I think the question people always ask is, okay, so how do we fix it? How do we fix this? How do we build a better world? And I think the thing I say always is that the thing that will save the world is doubt. I think we all need to learn to doubt ourselves and our belief systems a little more. And that's not to say that what you believe is it's not to say that you need to believe that everything you believe is wrong, but I'm saying you need to understand that everything you believe is an opinion, and that there is a chance that the thing that you believe is not correct. And so you need to have that open-minded understanding, and you need to be able to like doubt and question the things that you believe with such certainty to be true, because if you don't, then you're going on blind faith, you're going on closed-minded thinking, and you are going to inevitably end up being harmful to the world, no matter what that thinking is.
Agreed. I do think, though, that there's something to be said about a universal truth in terms of progression of like science. I think that what I really appreciate about scientific thinking is that it strives to prove itself wrong. That's how the scientific community works, is that they don't strive to prove something right like conspiracy theorists do. Conspiracy theorists have a lot of the makings of scientists in that they're inquisitive. They just don't know where to put that energy, and they're not using it properly. And by that, I mean scientific communities, the second as a scientist, you posit something like, oh, there's archaeological evidence that dinosaurs existed, an entire world of scientists is going to jump on that in order to prove you the fuck wrong. Because that's the way they do things in the scientific realm, is that they strive to prove you wrong. And so I think that like without us having some sort of commonality in terms of like, yes, we agree that this is the truth. Like, yes, I believe NASA photos. Like, I think people like, okay, when people are like, do you believe we landed on the moon in the 60s? And I was like, I don't think it matters. Do you think we've been to the moon since? And they're like, well, yeah, we've been to the moon since, but not in the 60s. And I'm like, then why does it matter? Why does that conversation even for anymore? You believe we've been to the moon since, right? Whether it's yesterday or in the 60s, it doesn't really fucking matter because that's already said and done. That is a reality that we can all get on board with in terms of like, yup, humans have been to the moon. We have seen it. Like, so there's just like a certain level of like, yes, doubt, but then it's the conspiracy theorists that will cast doubt on something that is universally like math. There's mathematicians and you learn math in school and people are like, math is usually pretty concrete answer until you get to quantum physics and shit. And then that's when everything's all like, ooh, question mark. But you know what I mean? Like it's a language everyone can understand in terms of like being on the same wavelength. Moving forward in time as we experience it. Time is not linear, I understand that, but as we experience time, that is the progression of moving forward in some capacity. And I know we then touched on before we started talking on the episode about how there's the two different types of people or whatever.
Well, yeah, and I don't know, because I think it's like I would argue it depends. You know, I hear what you're thinking about the scientific community, but I think it really isn't about the scientific community. It's more about there are good people within the scientific community that do that. But then I think, you know, on the other hand, like, you know, medicine, for example, would fall under the scientific community, right? And as as someone who has had a lot of struggles with the medical community and like with, you know, health issues as a woman, especially, and a woman of color, especially, I'll say like, I think there are good actors within the medical community and within the scientific community, but I also think that there are those within the scientific community that don't always act in the best interest. And so I think it's like, it is important for us to question. Now, once you have like an understanding and you're able to do that research, I think there's a follow-up to the doubt, obviously, is like, do your research, ask questions, listen to people.
There's always that's back to the non-binary thing. Like there's always going to be bad actors and there's always going to be good actors. It's about what percentage of that group is winning. And in my opinion, I think it's always the progressive one, the people that have good intentions. And that's maybe just, you know what
Mimi,
I mean?
have you seen our current government? I don't think that's
true. That's just the government though. Like that doesn't, I think there's a lot more people across the globe everywhere that are way smarter than, you know, the government.
100%.
Like our best people are not in the government.
People in power.
Yeah,
but they're the people in power that are making the decisions. And so therefore,
and that's so I think you know what I think that does? I think that impedes growth. I don't think it makes it go backwards. I think at the end of the day, the hope core always is like I'm telling you, it's like this idea of no matter what, things are going to progress. Whether that's positively or negatively is always, you know, in the eye of the beholder, but things are going to progress regardless. Like always,
I
things
agree
are
with
going
that,
to
sure,
change
just
forever because nothing is nebulous. Or it is, wait, is nebulous like ever changing?
It's unknown. Yeah, it's
unknown.
ever changing. Yeah, no.
Okay, so it's not.
And I fully agree with that. I fully agree with that
confused.
because like that's the thing is like we don't really know what is like this idea of bad and good, going back to like what we were talking about before. Let's
Yes.
talk about that binary conversation, which is like I think something that we were talking about before we hopped on, and something that I've been talking about a lot, especially as of late, but just in general, is binary thinking is very much a part of white supremacy and Western imperialization and colonization, because this is not a thing that exists in a lot of indigenous and ancient cultures. This idea of binaries, this idea of like good and bad, and like, you know, like like even when we look at like gender binaries, sexuality binaries, like none of that really exists in a lot of ancient cultures. There's a lot of this like this acceptance that there is so much that is unknown and there is so much that we don't know, and like we don't even know what is good and bad, because sometimes bad things happen but those bad things lead to really good things, and sometimes good things happen and those good things lead to really bad things, right? So what actually is good and bad at the end of the day? Everything is just a thing, you know, and whatever you choose to assign to it is what it is, and that assignment that you give to it will change throughout time and throughout your life and throughout your experience, you know. And
have you haven't seen the movie Heretic, right? You haven't. I think it's an A24 film. Okay, it's a horror film. We should watch it at some point. Not for the podcast because I want to reserve the podcast.
We'll add it to our. No, we'll definitely add it to the horror podcast.
Okay, yes. After we go through the classics, but Heretic is so fucking good. So basically, in it, they talk about this idea of like different religions, blah blah blah. It's so fucking good. But it talks about the fact that like there's always a problem, and which I agree with, is there's always a problem with religions or ideologies that have evangelization as a center of it, because there are certain religions like Judaism and Islam and to some extent Catholicism, but again, that's where the Christianity offspring kind of fucks it for everyone, is that like Jews are usually born Jewish. Like they're not really going around being like, hey, want to join Judaism? Like it's usually, you know, through the matriarchy and whatever. And same with like Islam. Islam is just kind of like, that's just, you don't hear, or maybe I just don't know if their recruitment strategy is as in your face as someone like Christianity, or the newest brand of Christianity, which the movie Heretic posits, which is Mormonism, is like the newest version of Christianity. And in that one, you fucking have Mormon missionaries going from home to home, being like, these college kids are going to these houses being like, what you think is wrong, and we need to turn you to our version of Jesus because we're saving you. And it's like, no, actually what you're doing is infringing on my beliefs. And then you know, the Catholicism isn't any better because they have a bunch of like crusades to answer for. So I just think that there's a lot of religions that are like, as long if you want to be and you are peacefully coexisting with all other religions, awesome. If you don't want to play nice in the sandbox, you got to leave.
Here's the thing. I'm gonna disagree a little bit with what you're saying, because throughout history and time, like, you know, you have different empires that have associated, and I want to be very clear about what I'm saying, that have associated themselves with things like Islam or Hinduism or Christianity, or, you know, whatever belief system they want to associate themselves with, or even like with political systems, right? And they enforce that belief system. Like look at something like North Korea, right? Where you have like, oh, their leader is like God, you know, this idea that like, you know, this, and that's something that exists in the West as well, right? Like the king is chosen by God, whatever, what have you, you know, is like, it's a thing that has existed everywhere throughout time. is like, and I think it's not a thing that is inherent, in my opinion, in religion itself. And this is coming, like, you know, growing up in DC around a lot of interfaith communities and being a part of a lot of those, like, you know, I've gotten to speak to and read a lot of different, you know, teachings. And I'm not at all an expert on any of them, including Hinduism, but I will say this. I think the root of every religion is sort of the same message, and it's the same thing that a lot of atheists and agnostics at their heart believe as well, which is we are all connected in some way. There is some higher power out there. We don't know what it is, whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it energy, whether you want to call it the universe, whether you want to call it, you know, just matter, or whatever you want to call it. There is something that we don't fully understand out there. And even physicists will agree with that. There is something greater out there to study. Whatever the answers to it are, we don't know. But there is something greater out there. And we are all connected in some way. And at the end of the day, we all need to treat each other with respect and treat, you know, each other with kindness, and all, because we're all on this fucking floating space rock together, right?
Yes.
Now, the problem is the problem is a lot of people who are desperate for power and greed then see those belief systems and those communities and go, oh, this is how we control people now. And so then those people insert themselves into these ideologies and spiritualities. And that is where religion gets born. And that's where this idea of now we need to convert everyone to our belief system, whatever that belief system is. We need everyone to believe this. We need to literally ignore the things that are actually in the teachings of the book and just preach our version of it in order to control and in order to gain power and in order to gain greed and money out and attention out of this. And so, and I think honestly that is a story as old as time, because it is seen through every aspect of human history, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's like, it's wild. Sorry.
Yeah, no, because it's like I always say, I think people want to jump on religion is bad or ideology, and I'm like, it's not those things itself that are the problem. Those are not good or bad things inherently. They are just things, and what people decide to do with those things has been either very good or deeply awful.
Yeah. Well, yeah, obviously, as can be seen by, you know, the pulse of the social and eco-sociological. Is eco-sociological a word? Ecological?
The sociological ecosystem? Is that what you're trying?
Maybe. Sociological ecosystem. Ooh, bars. No, sociological ecosystem of like the world at any given point. It can, you know, it's so, yeah, I feel like it also sometimes will come down to optimism or no. I don't be sorry. This is like what this podcast is for.
I was laughing because I was like, I love that we started this conversation with dragons. And this is how we got here. And this is so on brand for me. Is like, I love dragons. And now let's talk about
the meaning of the universe.
And white supremacy.
Exactly.
The meaning of the universe.
But like so many people also shy away from, like a lot of people are like, it's not that deep. And you're like, well, if it's not that deep, then nothing is, you know? Like, yeah, if it's not that deep, then we can't have a meaningful conversation if you don't want to get that deep.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't know how to. I'm that person at every party that will just find one person and sit in the corner and have like a 5-hour conversation about the universe.
Love. I love that. Well, but that's also why I think like spiritual people and more like open people are such a joy to like be around and talk to. And that's not to say they have to be extroverts, introverts. I don't mean like I think something that you mentioned that is a huge hyperfixation of mine is the idea of like a manipulator, a con artist, a grifter. My favorite book ever in the whole universe I cannot say it enough, is The Confidence Game by Maria Konnikova. Such a good fucking book. It's the best book I've ever read in my life, and I love it so much. It talks
I've
about...
never read it. I'll add it to my list.
Oh my God, it's so good. You're going to love it. Maria Konnikova is amazing. I just love her. I love her work. But also, in specifically, The Confidence Game is about grifters and con artists, right? And how it all comes down to con artists at the end of the day. And I think like that's how my mom raised me, and that's the biggest thing I hope to impart onto my children, is that, be wary and understand how to spot when someone is trying to take advantage of you and your belief system in order to achieve something. Like, you know what I mean?
No, I do. It's interesting because I feel like I cut you off.
No, you didn't at all. Go for it.
Because I come from DC, as I've said. I always see posts where they're like, a fun drinking game to play with people from DC is to take a shot every time they say they're from DC, because
really
we say it all the time.
I'm from DC. You wouldn't know.
And to be fair, I understand, because a lot of DC people might come at me. I'm not technically from DC itself. I am from the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia, little tri-state area. Or not tri-state, because DC isn't a state, but it should be statehood for DC, everyone.
When I first came to the US, I thought Washington DC was in Washington state, and then I learned it wasn't, and I was like, what the fuck is that about?
It's literally on the other coast.
Like, I was I was foreign, and I was like, wait, you mean to tell me Washington DC is not in Washington state? Make that make sense. And they were like, it just does. And that's something you should know as an adult, Mimi. And I said, wow. And they said, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. No, I'm kidding. But fuck. I didn't know. I feel like I also thought 9/11 happened in Chicago. When I first came to the US, I was 7 years old. And 9/11 happened. I was in ESL, English Second Language, right? So I was still like learning English. And they just all of a sudden stop our lesson. They were like, we interrupt this broadcast to bring you the live footage of the towers falling. And they like, brought in the TVs, the rolly TVs on the carts or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, city. I know city. And it was Chicago. I didn't know any other city. I was just like, Chicago has buildings, and those are buildings. And so I was like, oh no. That's crazy. It didn't even click to me conceptually that New York was a city. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that means I'm stupid or foreign, but it just took means a while.
I mean, I think one, you were 7, Mimi, and
True.
2, you're from a different country. Like,
I was like, what are we talking about?
But all America is
and the thing is, they were
wild,
playing the news in English, and I was like, you mean the language I just started learning? Like, fucking good luck keeping up with this broadcast.
So I'm from the part of Northern Virginia where on 9/11, they were not telling us what was happening, because so many of our parents worked for the government. And so like they had parents at the Pentagon, at the State Department, at Langley. God, so like they didn't want to tell us, because like so many of us literally had parents that were, we didn't know where they were. We didn't know if they were alive, because all the phone lines were shut down to DC. And it was crazy. But coming back to that, I think what's interesting, because you're talking about like, the way that your mom raised you, my dad very much, because like growing up in Northern Virginia, like specifically where I was from is, Great Falls, Virginia is, you're right near Langley. You're right. A lot of our parents work for government, and that's all we legally were ever allowed to know about it. A lot of our parents aren't getting the news from the news. They're getting their news from the memos sitting on their desk, right? They're getting it before, whether, because everyone's spinning the news, whether it's CNN or Fox News, like they're both spinning it in a certain way to like feed their agendas, right? And so growing up, my dad, every evening we would watch the news, and whether it was NBC, ABC, CNN, Fox, like whatever it was we were watching, he would always be like, okay, you see what they're saying? That's not what actually happened, right? They're trying to spin this narrative to you that this is who's responsible, but this is the history of what happened. This is and it's one of those things where it's like, I never really realized just how important the lessons he was teaching were.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It sounds like he's a very smart man. Super
he was
fucking
really smart, but not just
on
that.
it.
It's like he's also teaching us to like understand the way that politics in the country work and the way that propaganda works. Like he was literally explaining propaganda and critical thinking skills in a way that like, you know, I feel like so many people you talk to don't understand, right? There's so
Yeah.
many people
No,
who
100
believe that
exactly.
journalism has a history of integrity, and you go, okay, but when? Point to a time in
But
history when it
when
had integrity.
is the
Because
integrity in
there's
the room with
yes,
us? Yes or no?
yeah, because like it's not to say that there are journalists out there that have integrity. There are absolutely journalists out there that have incredible integrity. Look at the journalists literally losing their lives in places like Gaza trying to get the news out of what's happening, right? Journalism, there are such good actors within journalism, but journalism itself is not inherently like, just like we were talking about science or any, like nothing is inherently a good field. There are good and bad people within every field and within every like belief system, you know. Again, we're just talking about nuance and binary here, but it's so
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
Because I think people want to believe that, but you go, there's so many times, you know, that there's so much of history that supports the idea that journalism has often been used as a tool of empires for the sake of propaganda. They are propaganda machines. And again, that is
Yeah.
not to say
Too
that
many
every journalist
too
lacks
many people don't
integrity.
understand what propaganda is, and it comes
They
back
don't.
to it also goes back to like an educational deficit in terms of like, in my opinion, America versus the rest of the world. I honestly feel like I was like telling John,
Here's
like,
the
I
problem
don't
with
want my
that.
kids to be raised in the US education system. That's like the lowest in reading. You know what I mean? Not like the lowest, but out of
No,
all the developed countries, I think we've come a long way, and I don't
well,
think the US is this
I
powerhouse of a fucking country it used to be. Whatever the fuck. You know?
I well, I agree. I think it was never really a power, but I think when we talk about education systems, I mean, it is a powerhouse in the sense of, sure, we spend a lot on military power,
Right.
but I think when we talk about education, I think it's also really easy to look down on people, but I think again, nuance needs to be in the room with us, because the education system is also purposely built to be that way. It was purposefully built to not teach, but to create
Yeah.
a group of people who would be easy to control.
But
That is the
that's
purpose of
that's
our
why we
education.
talked about the whole Western versus everywhere else discussion right before, and that's why I was like, this is such a good discussion. We need to get on the podcast because we were talking about it right before we actually started recording. But yes, exactly. I think that like the it goes back to how Western culture only thrives under the an imbalance of knowing and education.
Yeah.
And I think that any place you go to that
Western
has
culture,
everyone is like educated, properly educated, I think you see better conditions.
Well, and it's not just Western culture. It is a tool of empire building. It is a tool of empire building in general. It's a tool of supremacy, because it's not just white supremacy. Supremacy has existed throughout history in all different forms, in all different empires, and all different kingdoms, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's a tool of supremacy. Is an uneducated populace is an easily controllable one,
yeah,
you know?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. They love their lemurs. I feel like that's, as long as people could be lemurs.
Well, and I think that's why it's so important, again, for people to question and to research and to find people, you know, that they trust and listen to. And yes, there's a lot of nuance in that. There's so much complication in that. There's, you know, because there are people who believe they're doing that and still end up believing things that are not necessarily for the best of humanity, you know? And but I think, like, I don't know. I feel like if we all question more and did more research and we're willing to take the ego out of the conversation and admit that sometimes what we believe might be wrong, because I think that's also what holds a lot of people back is, you know, you end up in your, you know, whatever age you're at, whether you're 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 70s, 80s, and you are faced with the reality that this thing that you have always known and believed to be true might actually be wrong. And I think oftentimes what people come up against is, again, it's that binary thinking that comes into play with the ego, right? And this is why it's also a tool of white supremacy, this binary thinking, right? Is because if what you're saying is that I believe something that is wrong, then that means I'm wrong and therefore a bad person. And you're like, no, it just means that you have learned
Don't
new
entangle your
information.
morality into, I think it also hugely comes down to the intensity with which the group or whatever that people are, like, it's good to, I think The Confidence Game talks about this, my favorite book, or maybe one of Maria Konikova's other books, but basically what she said is like people, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Fuck.
No, take your time.
What did I just say right before?
We were talking about binaries. You were talking about Maria Konnikova and your favorite quote or something that she talks about in it regarding questioning things and whatever group it is that realizes something or learns something. I don't know. I'm trying to just like repeat the words that we were talking about.
I know. I'm like, what the fuck? This is where we get so existential. I'm like, whoa, I just reached the astral plane. No, this is why I was never good at philosophy in school. Because anytime I think about this stuff too hard, my brain is like, bloop.
I think that's just an ADHD thing.
Yeah.
To be honest. Your brain just like jumps around.
For real. Literally.
Because I was like, in my head, I just looked over and I was like, if you want a recommendation of something that brings dragons and everything we're talking about together, everyone should just read Fourth Wing. And that's just my lifelong journey is to tell everyone to read Fourth Wing.
Yeah, but also soon it should be telling everyone to read your 3-part trilogy. Do you want to talk a little bit about your 3-part trilogy?
Is it okay if I say no? Just because I'm
yes, totally,
of, like,
absolutely,
and everything. But yes. Okay. But here's what I will say. Yes, I am writing a 3-part fantasy story that does involve a lot of these conversations, because I think like I can talk a little bit about my writing.
Yay! I love it.
Yeah. Because I'm still in the process of like, we're deep in the outlining and research phase right now. But I feel like a lot like this, everything we're talking about right now is like a lot of what I write about anyways, because I like to always say that I write the same 3-tiered cake, but the decorations are always different and the frosting flavors might all be different, but it's the same 3-tiered cake. It's found family and romance layered with this generational trauma, layered with this is actually about white supremacy and colonization and imperialization. And I, and whether that is a world of dragons or a world of fae or a world of, espionage or, a fantastical island in the Arabian Sea. It's just, it's the same cake. It's the same cake. Okay.
That's what I love about, honestly, like people that are part of a fan. Oh, I think I remembered the thing that Maria Konnikova said.
Okay.
Sorry. Is about people having different groups in their lives. And basically the intensity with which the group demands your personal involvement, and whether or not they start telling you cut off your family, cut off your loved ones, you only need to listen to us and silo everything through us and listen to us for divine truth. Like there is she said like a healthy social environment is being part of several groups. And one of those groups I think that's really lovely to be a part of is usually book fandoms, because they're their own ecosystems. I know, I understand.
That shit can get toxic.
That's
so
true. That's
fucking
true.
fast.
I know, but
it
it
really
still
can.
is a very interesting like little group of people that all agree on this one thing and want to explore this world. People love stories. People love stories. That's why books and movies and everything will never go away. People love stories.
And here's the thing, I will say, as a brown girl who loves fantasy and sci-fi, I will disagree with you very much on that, because I think there are great people within those communities for sure. And they're great communities within the fandom community, but there are also extremely toxic ones. And I think, like, I always say, like, I think the curse of so many fantasy and sci-fi writers, especially the good ones, is they're constantly running up against, like, look at the people who, like, I'm so sorry for this turn of conversation, but it's like there's so many people who like read Fourth Wing or read Hunger Games or loved Star Wars, right? And they look at the world around us and they still don't understand it. They still are on the side of the Empire, and I'm like, but did you read the fucking book? Did you read? Did we read the same thing? Did we watch the same movie? Because I don't understand what you're missing here. Like, you read Hunger Games and you get it. You get the complexity of the conversation, but you get who are the worst evil here. You get you understand the conversation happening here in this book, and then we go to reality and you're like, no,
I don't see the problem. I don't see the parallels. What are you talking about? Yeah. Literally.
And you're like,
you're like,
I don't know what book you read. I don't know what book you read, but I don't think you read Hunger Games. I'm sorry.
I think I made a TikTok about how, like, I rewatched Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because the main character in it is really hot. The guy, my friend Carly and I were talking about how we got on the conversation because we both have a crush on Arion from fucking
okay, here's the thing though.
Night of Seven Kingdoms.
A hot guy will always get you involved and invested, and there's nothing wrong with getting
terrible. And so is and she mentioned, she goes, so is the guy that plays young President Snow, but goddamn is he hot. He's pretty fucking hot. So I rewatched it, and anyway, I was like, wow,
I love
the parallels
that for
between
you. Definitely not my type, but I love that for you.
Yes, no, that's true. This also kind of has a sneak peek of what our we have a podcast together called Creepers Peepers.
We do.
And we talked about how Shelley Duvall in The Shining, for Sarah and I, we were like, yes, oh my God, finger looking good. She's amazing.
I like girls that can run, okay?
You're like,
I like people that know how to run.
That's fair.
Yes. But also, I just, I'm sorry. But I think that is true. I do think there's nothing wrong with admitting and saying that, like, being attracted to a character, it's why we love our main male characters, because
True.
They make you more invested. I'm not above saying that pretty people make you more invested. Okay.
Yeah. As long as they have another talent along with being pretty. But I think
yes,
charisma.
100%.
I think it comes down to charisma too. I don't know. I feel like Arion and the guy that plays young President Snow have riz. Okay, not to quote outside of our generation here, but riz. Like, I feel like it's like, if you got riz, you got.
They have riz, and look, riz can be used for good or bad. It's a thing. It's a thing. You can use it for good or bad.
That's why I really actually love a Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I think watching it a second time helped me understand it a bit better, because the first time I was like, oh, the whole thing isn't just about the Hunger Games, because it's not. It's a smaller part of President Snow's overall kind of how he became President Snow, right? And it's like, it takes place after, several years after the games, and the fact that he's like a peacekeeper and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, upon second reviewing, I will say I think I picked up on a lot more in terms of, like, his battle with, like, he has a proclivity toward evil, but also he's capable of being good, as is shown by Tigris, his cousin, who, like, is like, Corio. She's like, Corio, I know you're good. And he's like, I don't know. And then she's basically like, I know if you choose the right path, you'll be good. And then he ultimately turns evil.
Well, and I'm going to say something that I am so afraid will be misquoted, and I don't want myself to be misquoted. Okay. But I've again, this is like, I have so many different little, like, I don't know. What are they called? Oh my God. I'm trying to think of a word.
No,
I'm having an ADHD moment.
No, literally, It happens. It's the best of us.
I have a lot of different, TED Talks, I guess is the word I will use for this conversation, that I love to give. And one of them is, I think, a big problem with the way that we view history is that, and I need everyone to get on board with me and let me finish what I'm about to say before you jump at me, is that we teach that the bad people of history, you know, your dictators and all that, are villains, and that our good people of history, you know, your Martin Luther King Juniors and stuff, are saints and angels. And I think it's such a dangerous thing to do. And I think the reason it's so dangerous to do is because the truth is actually that these are all people. And look, like, I'll say, like, even when we talk about Hitler, right, people get really uncomfortable, but like, there are people who at that time were like, oh yeah, but he was good with kids. You know, there's so many pictures of him with, and like, he was a vegetarian, he loved animals, right? And people then use those good things, and you see it happening with Trump right now, right? Like, there are these little moments where people will go, oh, but he was nice to me, he was good to me, so like, therefore it's like, but here's the thing, he's a human being, and every human being has done one good thing, sure, at least. Right. But the problem is, we have to look at people as a whole. And when they're bad, they are just people who are making choices. And when their bad choices start to outweigh their good ones, that is the danger, right? And then you look at people like Martin Luther King, and you look at people like, you know, Gandhi? Oh my God, Gandhi. You look at people like
Abraham Lincoln.
You know, like yeah, it's like, these are people who, sure, they all did one bad thing or a couple bad things that people will glom onto, but overall their good natures and their good choices outweighed their bad ones. And I think the power of teaching people that is that we start to fully understand that the only thing that separates us from being a villain of history or a good person in history is literally our choices. And we all have the capability to become a villainous person in history, and we all have the capability to become an incredible one. And that is the power we have, because it is literally our choices. We don't have to be this angelic saint of a human being, and we don't have to be this horrific monster to be labeled as such, or to do good and bad in the world.
I think that's why you'll like Hasbin Hotel. I know I told you to watch it, but whenever you do watch it, I think you'll really like it, because it really does explore this idea of like, can anyone be all good and all bad? And why is the idea of heaven and hell so toxic, in that there is this middle line that you either cross into good or cross into bad. And it's like, who weighs your debts at the end of the fucking day?
With binaries. It's the problem with binary thinking and black and white thinking. And I feel like that's been like just the whole conversation we had.
I gotta write this down. This is good. I think I'm gonna name it, because I usually name the episode. This is gonna definitely be Nuances, Binary Thinking, and one other thing. I'll think of it later. But those two things.
And
I have half the title.
And dragons. And dragon snails. Dragon snails. Everyone needs to know about dragon snails.
Dragon snails. Dragon snails. Dragon snails.
They should make... Okay, here's the reboot. Here's the reboot I want. Here's the reboot I want. I want a reboot of Dragon Tales, but instead of Dragon Tales, it's Dragon Snails.
Yes! Oh my God. I think we could get multiple people on board with that, honestly. Are you down to start the GoFundMe? Because I'm fucking on board. I'm ready. I'm ready to pledge $20 right now to this fucking crowdfunding.
I loved Dragon Tales growing up.
Me too,
I loved anything. I love anything PBS, dragons. I have so many books about dragons.
Dragon Tales, Between the Lions, Out of the Box, Blue's Clues. These are shows that shaped my fucking thinking, okay? I didn't grow up with cable, so... PBS and public fucking broadcasting was a godsend. And the fact that it's been defunded
support
says a lot.
Public broadcasting, because right now they're defunding it. I had a very odd childhood in the sense that, I grew up with Dragon Tales. You know, oh my God, who's the other one that the Big Comfy Couch? Did you ever watch the Big Comfy Couch?
Yes.
Oh, I remembered.
That one. Was it a bear? No, that was Bear in the Big Blue House. Oh my God, there's too many of these.
But
like,
I feel
those
like
I
I
didn't
grew
watch
up
as much,
I didn't
but I
grow up
do,
watching a
yes.
lot of like modern television.
Right.
I grew up on
That's a good
modern
point.
television outside of America. I grew up on like
Yeah.
British stuff and K dramas and things like that.
God,
But
I love.
I didn't grow up on a lot of like modern American stuff. Like I grew up on like Dick Van Dyke on MASH. MASH is hands down, I think, one of the best written shows ever. And it is still till today. It's so interesting because that show, I love to talk about that show because I'm like, that show was made in the 70s. It was about the 50s. And yet still so many of the conversations they are having in that show are still applicable today.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
you know?
wild. That's
And
crazy.
like, it's like, yeah, it's not a perfect show. Sure, there are some of those jokes that have not, and some of those bits that have not aged well.
Sure.
But like what show does, but I think it's like about understanding the power that something had in its time and the message it was trying to get across. Because I think for me, that's why I think MASH is such it's a show that like has really stood the test of time. Because when we talk about war, when we talk about, you know, just the way that these power systems function, it talked about it so brilliantly and it had such a good commentary on it. And I just think Alan Alda is a gem of a human being, you know?
I love that. Yay. Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
I guess speaking of, I don't know, obviously we talked about favorite phenomena, dragons. It's such a good fucking answer.
Yeah.
The second one is, have you had any personal phenomena experiences?
I have. So I went to Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah, Georgia, which is one of the most haunted cities in America.
Love.
T.
Oh,
and the dorm I lived in was like this old converted motel. And there were 3 ghosts that apparently lived in this building. I love it. Technically 4, I think, because there was a kid who like killed himself at some point. I don't know. Sorry.
No,
that's dark.
That's
but
usually with every haunted house, there's one suicide. It's almost always part of the fucking text.
Yeah, like when you went to the higher levels of the building, there was like glass or that plastic over the like balconies so that you could it was interesting. But there were 3 ghosts that lived in the building. One was a little boy, and he, like, you would often hear marbles like rolling in the like above you and on the floor. It was and then there was another that was a woman that was like killed in the motel at some point, and so some people had run-ins with her. And then there was a man who was really like just evil. I don't know how else to explain it. And it was like, I don't know if it was like, and yeah, there's multiple different ways to explain phenomena. And so, sure, I might have had
I think
one
all
episode of sleep
ghostly or whatever like occurrences they do constitute as a phenomenon, or they are a phenomenon, because it's like, who knows
but here's the thing. I'm happy to
Oh yeah, wait, you were saying
wonder.
Have you had a sleep paralysis demon encounter? Is that what you're going to say?
Well, I haven't had a sleep paralysis demon. What I was going to say was I had one run-in with the man ghost.
The bad guy.
Lived in the bad
worst guy? Oh no.
I woke up in the middle of the night one night and I felt something sitting at the edge of my bed.
Hate that. Hate it.
And I felt a hand grab my leg.
Immediately jail.
Jail. It was terrifying. And then I
hate it. Not the grab the leg grabbing. For what?
It was really terrifying. And then I don't remember what happened. And then at some point I felt like him walk away, and I was like, okay, this is terrifying. And then there was another ghost who lived in he didn't live, he just would always show up at the fountain behind our dorm building. And there were a few times where I would get really overwhelmed and I would cry. He was a sweet one. He was like very sweet, and like he was just I don't know, he didn't have a bad he was just like a little innocent you know, aura about him. But I like every time I would like have like I had a couple bad moments at college, as we all do. We have those bad days. And then you just like, I would go back there and I would like cry. I would sit on the bench and I would just like cry it out. And sometimes he would just like sit next to me and it was like very sweet. It wasn't harmful at all. He was just like curious.
Yeah.
Oh, I do have a really funny ghost story.
Yes, please. Love.
Okay.
Same ghosts?
Because of my...
Same ghosts? Same
different
location?
Ghosts, different ghosts.
Okay.
Different location. Different location.
Okay.
This is a fun story. This is okay, so basically because of my experiences with ghosts and the fact that I've always been like sensitive to energies in that way, I feel like I had when I was back home in DC a couple years ago, one of my friends was like, oh my God, we should go on a ghost tour because DC also has a lot of ghosts and there's a lot of history there and everything.
Yeah.
And we had a moment, right? And this is my best friend Catherine, and so she was like, yeah, she loves going on ghost tours because she's also sensitive to energies, but she has a different experience than I do. She's like pretty chill with them, and for me, I'm just like, I feel like I always end up like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm a little more like, you live your life, ghost, I'm gonna live mine, let's just like not interact. Then she's like, no, I love it, let's like not interact, but she's like, I love to like learn about it because she has like a very historical and analytical mindset, and so she's like, I love to like learn about it, see, you know.
Sorry, my dog just started barking. Naya! Sorry. Oh, John might have just gotten home. No way. Wait. I don't think so. Sorry, that just like freaked me out. We're talking about crazy things and bad ghosts, and now there's people at my door, and I hope it's not the demon we invoked. No, I'm kidding. But John's supposed to be coming home soon. But yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
And because of that, I was like, I told her, I was like, is this going to be a scary ghost tour? And what I meant when I said scary was, is this going to be actual ghosts or is it just scary stories? You know, because like some ghost tours are just like, oh, we're just telling you stories, but are they real or not? I don't know, you know, but and then some ghost tours are like, no, this is historical and these are the ghosts and this is like the people, you know, like and I'm like, yeah. And so I was like, is this scary?
Which one is scary to you?
It's not.
The one
scary
that's
to me
real.
Is actual ghosts.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Like I'm okay with the scary stories. I just don't want actual ghosts.
Right.
You know? Just because sometimes I'm like, I feel like I also tend to, I don't know. Sorry, that's like a lot to go into. But so basically she was like, so I asked, is it scary? And what I mean by scary is it ghosts or is it just scary stories? And she goes, no, it's not scary at all. And what she meant by it's not scary at all is she's like, oh no, it's not like scary stories. It's actual ghosts, right? No. Because we both are defining that word completely differently.
Classic miscommunication.
It was like
mishap.
Such a comedic sitcom moment, to be honest.
Yeah.
And so we ended up going to dinner beforehand with another one of my friends, and then all three of us were going on the ghost tour, and we had decided to go on the last one of the night. And we got there a little late. So we missed the tour starting. But Catherine, because she's been on these ghost tours so much in like Old Town Alexandria and Georgetown and everything, she's a historian herself. She's an archivist. Cool. So she was like, oh, I can just do the tour for us. So we get ice cream and then we go to like, the visitor center where it starts. And she goes, okay, so guys, this is where we start the tour. Now, in that building over there where the ice cream shop is, that's where the first ghost is. She is a woman, and I'm going to try to be as much as I remember of the history. I might be a little wrong about some of the history, so please forgive me if I am. But she was basically a bride in the, I think, 1800s who got locked in her bedroom on her wedding day and her dress caught fire.
Tragedy
she
strikes again.
And they couldn't get her out of the room. And when she came out of the room, she ran into the middle of the streets, and these horses ran over her or something like that.
Oh no,
and I
double
was like,
whammy.
So
this poor
well,
girl.
a lot of people will often hear sometimes in the middle of like, you know, like it's modern day. We don't have horses and carriages anymore, but people will see like her figure in the window, and like sometimes they'll like see like a ghostly figure run into the middle of the street, and then they'll hear the sound of horses.
Fun.
And
Headless Horseman.
Here's the thing you need to know about me. My initial reaction to anything is always comedy, which is sometimes really, really great, but a lot of times, especially during very serious moments, not always appreciated.
Did you
by
like make
humans
a joke
and sometimes
during
ghosts? Yes, that is where
tour?
we are going, Mimi.
Mhm.
What I did in this moment was I decided to make a joke, and it's not really a joke. It was more of a comedic observation.
Sure. Yes.
Which I was like, and I do sort of stand by this observation, which is I think it's odd that everyone is assuming that the horses are a part of her astral memory. So basically, before the ghost tour starts, Catherine goes into this thing where she's like, there's different types of ghosts, right? And she's like, sometimes a ghost is like, there's a type of spirit that's just like hanging around with unfinished business. There's also ones that are like stuck in a memory that's holding them back, right? Like a traumatic memory or a moment, right? So I was like, it's odd to me that everyone is assuming that the horses are a part of her ghostly memory of trauma, because how do we not know that is like the ghost of the horse's memory that then gets triggered by her?
Yeah.
Because I was like, think about it. If you're a horse, that's a fucking traumatic memory. There's just like a human who runs out on fire in front of you. Like, that's terrifying. That's terrifying.
True.
And so I start laughing because I think what I've said is very funny. And all of a sudden, both me and Catherine feel her come down between us.
Oh, I hate it.
Like my right arm goes cold, her left arm goes cold. We both just like pause at the exact same moment and we look in the same direction. But here's the thing. She was a friendly ghost. She was more curious than anything. She wasn't harmful. It was like, you know, and I felt so bad about it though, because like, that's the thing. Like, she's stuck in a moment of trauma. And then here I am, an asshole, just like making a joke about it.
I don't know. I feel
curious about it.
I feel like the ghost sightings personally are just like things that have happened in the past and are leaving ripples of energy, like a stamp in time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think that I don't know if I believe that souls are trapped now. I would like to think that maybe some sort of, I think I talked about this in one of my Phenomena episodes called Brown Lady of Raynham Hall, where I was like, I think any sort of really large emotion like trauma or horror or like true despair or like
it's energy. It's
energy. Those energies are
behind.
Exactly. Those energies are more palatable to people that are more open to receiving them and feeling them. And I feel like it's like it's an interesting. Like, I wonder if the lady that went in between you guys saw you guys and was interacting with you guys in real time, or if maybe that's just where she stood when she was alive and you felt the reciprocal shadow or reciprocal position of where she was. Does that make sense?
And here's the thing. I think all of these answers that we've given are true, or possibilities, you know? Like, I think that is the thing, is it could just be, they all are valid. And also it could just be that me and Catherine are just making up something in our head, you know? Like, I think all of these are possible and true.
I think we talked about that in that episode. I'm trying to think, like, because the Brown Lady of Raynham Hall, she's the first ghost that was captured on camera. And then on that episode, we talked about how, like, obviously there's one of the theories is that it's all a hoax and that it was somehow made. But this ghost showed up and it was this photo that was taken like the 1800s, and it seems like a really difficult photo to doctor in the 1800s, but it does spark one of those conversations of like, well, what is it? And what sparked, how did this photograph of this woman coming down the stairs seemingly make it into this photo of, at the time, completely empty stairs? It's just like,
Well,
it's
and
interesting.
It's interesting because you say like the separation between a soul and a ghost, because like
Right.
I love the show What We Do in the Shadows. I love the movie
Yes,
as well.
so good. It's
I
so
love them
good. I
both. But What We
love
Do in the Shadows
movie.
kind of talks about that. They have like and
Oh,
I know
I
I'm
love
not
it.
saying they were talking about it in a scientific way at
Sure,
all. I'm
sure,
just saying
sure.
it was like a bit of the show.
Yeah.
There's like
I
that
gotta
whole
watch the
bit
show.
where they summon their souls, their human souls.
I love that.
And
hell yeah.
yeah, so they're like vampires, but they're like, you know, they still have their consciousness because they're vampires and they're
Sure.
talking and they're hanging out, but they're like summon their human souls. And
Interesting. In the
I
show,
forget, and
right?
like
Yeah.
Nadia's like, yeah, in
Yeah.
the show, and then Nadia puts her soul, her human soul, in like the little doll of her.
Whoa, that's getting
Have
like
you
Black
seen?
Mirror-y. No, I haven't seen the show. I really need to. Damn, I love the movie.
I love What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes, I love the movie.
I am so
much.
sad that show is over because I would have loved to be a part of it.
Oh,
I would
absolutely.
have loved to be on that show. But
That's
yeah,
a really
I think
fun
it's
show to be
interesting because I'm
on.
like, yeah, but it was really funny about that though, was that I was the one who the entire time beforehand kept saying I didn't want to go on this ghost tour. And then we go, and exactly what I was afraid of was going to happen, which is I offended a ghost or like,
Yeah.
you know,
like,
and then
"Goddamn."
Catherine, after that first stop, we like start walking to the other stops, and Catherine just slowly stops giving the tour because she is so done with me. And I was like, I told you I did not want to be on this tour, but here we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, because I think like the history of it all, I think it is really interesting hearing those stories. I think I don't trust myself around ghosts. I
That's
just
fair.
don't.
That's fair. I don't think any of us should. I think we all act weird to everyone depending on who is the receiver of the action. Right? Right?
I have a bit of social anxiety, but I definitely have ghostal anxiety.
Yes, I think we all do. I don't know how the fuck an 1800s ghost. I think I saw a meme that was like, why are all the ghosts from the 1800s? Why don't we have a fucking ghost screaming, "It's Britney, bitch," down the fucking hallway?
Yes!
I need
Oh
her
my
to be wearing
God.
low-rise jeans. I need her to be doing the Britney Spears "Oops, I Did It Again" dance. And I need her to haunt me immediately. Please.
Well, it's like
90s ghosts.
I love shows like Ghosts because they kind of like play
Explore
with that
that
idea
yeah.
of like, yeah, you got
I
some
love
modern
it.
ghosts in there.
True. Very true. I think John is going to be coming home very soon. And I got to wrap up for the evening. But this was incredible. Thank you so much, Aarti, for coming. I think we answered both of the questions
course.
pretty well, right? The favorite
Yes.
phenomena, dinosaurs. Personal phenomena story.
Dragons.
Sorry. Sorry, they both start with a D, and in my mind, I always mix up dinosaurs and dragons. I know they're not the same thing, but they both start with
For
a D.
dragons, I am offended. On behalf of dragons everywhere, I am deeply offended by that.
You know what world I choose to live in? The world in which we've found dragon, like archaeological facts that dragons used to exist. Well,
The
technically, if
world
you think
I
about it,
choose to live in.
Lizards are technically dragons.
We don't know. You're right. We don't know that dragons didn't exist because we don't know. I choose to live in the world where dragons are real. Okay,
Yeah, I agree. Retweet.
I think they've just done a really good job of hiding. This is what I need to believe.
Yes, that's what I need to believe to move forward in life. No, I agree. I love it. Thank you so much, Aarti. Obviously, we've plugged our mutual podcast, Creepers Peepers, with our other friend Sarah. And we are working on recording some episodes now, but we'll let you know, and then I'll let everyone
And I will
know
keep
on
you
the
guys
show.
updated on my book
Yes!
as things move along.
Where can people find you?
along.
Where can people follow along?
Oh God, you can find me on Instagram, I guess. I mean, all I do is post everything that we talked about today.
Amazing. Perfect. What's your Instagram?
Dragons and politics. It's kind of my
Love.
vibe. Dragons, fae, and
perfect.
politics.
There you go.
Perfect
Perfect follow. Sounds like a perfect follow to me.
Yeah, so it's Aarti, Aarti as in Hari Chopra, Chopra, and that I'm Aarti Hari Chopra, it me.
Nice. Straight to the point. Full name, spoken like a true author. That is a very author-esque. I love it because for me, I'm like, my stage name is Mimi Dibs, and that's my stage name because I'm a performer.
Well, my stage
and so are
name,
you. Yes,
well, that's my stage name is Aarti Hari Chopra.
But the dot and the it's giving who wrote The Great Gatsby? Fuck.
Yeah.
No.
You know what's funny though? Oh, F. Scott Fitzgerald.
F. Scott Fitzgerald. Yes, it's just
kind
very
of a piece
like
of shit. Sorry,
no, he is.
He's a human
totally
being, kind of a piece of shit.
But a terrible author to bring up. He stole everything from his wife. But regardless, it's a very like art. I just think you're a writer and an actor, and I think the two are inextricably linked.
I triple named myself.
That's right. That's right. Aarti times 3, dude. I love it. Well, yeah, people definitely go follow Aarti on Instagram. She's a lovely follow. And thank you so much, Aarti, for joining us for the 6th ever episode of Phenomena Séance.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. This was amazing. You're amazing.
No, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I love you. I will talk to you soon.
Love you.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.